Let's just forget everything you've been told about being frugal. Seriously. It's not about being cheap or skipping your favorite coffee or living some joyless, sacrificial life. Today, we're going to completely reframe this. We're going to look at frugality as a powerful strategy, a system for optimizing your life to build real wealth and gain freedom. This isn't about deprivation, it's about design. Okay, let's dive in. 92%. What is this number? Well, this right here, this is the key to understanding why almost every attempt at saving money just fails miserably. That's right, it's the failure rate. According to behavioral economics research, a staggering 92% of people who try that old school cut back on everything approach to frugality, they give up, usually within 3 months. And why is that? Well, it's because it's basically designed to fail. It's a deprivation model, and our brains are just not wired for long-term self-denial. Think of it like a financial crash diet, and we all know how those end, right? So, here's our game plan. We're going to tackle this in 4 parts. First, we'll bust the frugality myth. Then, we'll uncover the real spending problem. After that, we'll build some smart, strategic spending systems. And finally, we'll lock in the wealth mindset that makes all of this stick. All right, part 1, the frugality myth. This idea that you can save your way to wealth by penny pinching on small joys, it is fundamentally broken. And honestly, it's kind of insulting. It's like, this just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly illustrates the point. Focusing on your $5 coffee when you've got these massive structural costs sinking your budget, it's just an exercise in futility. The math doesn't work. It never will. And this right here, this shows you the true scale of the problem. Just look at these numbers. Since 1970, the cost of essentials, we're talking housing, healthcare, education, they've absolutely skyrocketed. Meanwhile, our income has just kind of crawled upwards. No amount of willpower, no number of skipped lattes can possibly overcome this massive structural squeeze. Which brings us right to part 2, the real spending problem. So if the small stuff doesn't really matter, what does? It's time to figure out where the real financial battle is being fought. Before I flip to the next slide, just take a second. Think about your own budget. What are your top 3 expenses? For real, take a guess. Most people actually get this wrong, because we're all conditioned to focus on those small, frequent purchases we make every day. And there it is. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the big 3, that's housing, transportation, and food, they eat up over 60% of the average person's budget. These 3 things, this is the whole game. Everything else, it's pretty much a rounding error. So here's the absolute crucial point. Obsessing over every coffee purchase while you're ignoring a massive rent payment or a huge car note, it's a guaranteed path to financial frustration. You simply cannot win by playing in the minor leagues of your own budget. Okay, now that we know the real problem, let's build the solution. Welcome to part 3, strategic spending systems. This is where we get super practical. We're not going to talk about sacrifice here. We are going to talk about smart, sustainable systems that do all the heavy lifting for you. Let's start with the biggest piece of the pie, housing. This isn't about finding a smaller apartment. It's about being way smarter about where that apartment is. Check out this example. A simple 20-minute move in the Bay Area saves over $15,000 a year. That is a life-changing amount of money for one strategic decision. And here's another huge housing play, roommate economics. We all think of living alone as this big milestone, right? But man, it is an incredibly expensive one. Sharing the space can easily chop your housing costs by a third, saving you over $7,000 a year. So the question isn't, do you want a roommate? The question is Is avoiding one worth $7,200 to you? Okay, out of transportation. You know, buying a new car is one of the absolute worst financial moves most people make, and we do it over and over. Over a lifetime of driving, just choosing to buy reliable 4 to 6-year-old used cars instead of new ones saves you, on average, over $40,000. But hold on, it gets so much better. That 40 grand? That's just the start. Watch what happens when you invest that money instead. At an average 8% return over your career, that single, simple decision to just buy used cars, it compounds into over $156,000. That's the power of one strategic system. And for food, just forget about widget meal plans. They're boring, they're tedious, and may always break. Instead, try something like a meal architecture system. It's a flexible framework, right? You stock these core components, and then you just mix and match. You can create dozens of different, delicious meals for a tiny fraction of the cost of takeout. And you do it without the stress of a super rigid plan. Now, here's the secret sauce that ties all of these systems together: automation. The most effective systems are the ones that just run themselves. Set up automatic transfers to your savings account the day you get paid. Put your bills on autopay. Use tools that find you discounts automatically. Willpower, it's a finite resource. A good system makes it totally irrelevant. And that brings us to the final, and I think the most important part, the wealth mindset. The systems are the how, but the mindset, that's the why. This is the psychological shift that makes strategic spending feel like a win, not a loss. Just look at these two mindsets side by side. The difference is everything. The scarcity mindset, I can't afford that, is totally disempowering. It's all about limitation. But the abundance mindset, it's about choice. It's about control. I'm choosing not to spend there. You're not deprived. You're making a conscious choice to aim your resources at what you truly value. It's a total power move. And here is your secret psychological weapon: hedonic adaptation. It's a fancy term for something really simple. We get used to things. If you upgrade your lifestyle, you'll feel happier for a little bit. Then you go right back to your baseline. But guess what? If you strategically downgrade your lifestyle, you'll feel it for a bit, and then you return to the exact same baseline of happiness. The difference is, in one scenario you're broke, and in the other, you're banking thousands. Okay, so how do you actually put all this into action? Here's a clear 90-day plan. You start with an audit. Just see where you stand. Then you score some quick wins to build momentum. After that, you go after the big structural costs we talked about. And finally, you optimize and automate everything so the system just runs on its own. And what's the result of all this? I mean, look at this. This isn't an exaggeration. For a typical person, putting these systems in place can take their savings rate from like a tiny 3% to over 50%. That is the difference between maybe retiring someday and actually achieving financial freedom in 10 to 15 years. So it all comes down to this one question. This isn't about giving things up. It's about deciding what you truly want. Do you want the temporary thrill of buying stuff you can't really afford? Or do you want the permanent power that comes with financial freedom? Do strategies work? The math is certain. The only variable is you.